Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations effective December 26, 2024. 3,000 reserved. 3001 Federal Acquisition Regulation System. Alright, 3001 Purpose of Authority and Issuance. The Department of Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation establishes uniform acquisition policy procedures with implement and supplement the Federal Acquisition Regulations. Statement of guiding principles of federal acquisition 30,102. The Federal Acquisition Regulations are supplemented and interpreted permissively and consistent with statutory regulatory requirement policy and sound professional judgment. 2001-103 Authority, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations of the Department of Homeland Security Chief Procurement Officer, Senior Procurement Executive, C Title 4, U.S. Standard Code 1702, the Department of Homeland's Delegation Number 0702, under the Authority Title 5, U.S. Standard Code 301 through 302, Office of Federal Procurement Policy Act, Public Law Number 93, 488, Statute 796, including Section 2225. Alright, 3104, 3001-104 applicability. The following order precedence implies to resolve the acquisition regulation and procedural inconsistent funding with the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation or the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual. Statute, FARs, other applicable regulation, executive order, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, Department of Homeland Security Directives, Homeland Security Acquisition Manual, the Transportation Security Administration Exemption Regulation authorized by the Aviation Transportation Security Act 2001, or Public Law 10771, implemented as Section 114.0, Title 49 Contracts Award of the Transportation Security Administration pursuant to the AG Transportation Security Acquisition Regulation, or of Aviation Transportation Security Act of 2001 Authority, Consolidated Applications Act of 2008, Public Law 110-161, Division E, Title 5, Section 568, eliminates Aviation Transportation Security Act, Section F114.0, effective June 23, 2008. According to the Transportation Security Administration, acquisition initiated on June 22, 2008 are subject to Title 48 CFR Chapters 1 and 30. Contracts involving unappropriate funded instrumentalities must contain suitable dispute with the provisions may provide with the PLA the dispute jurisdiction civil board of contract appeals. However, the contract must not attempt to confer with the court jurisdiction that does not otherwise exist. Federal Acquisition Regulation and Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations were feasible no-cost contract, concession contracts, and contracts behalf of the NAFIS entered in the appropriate fund control contracting officers. 3001-105 issuance 105 Publication Code Arrangement, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, published in the Federal Register, communicated with the Code of Federal Regulations 3001-105-2, Arrangement of Regulations, General Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, accompanied the department-wide with a component of unique guidance to conform with the arrangement and numbering system provided with the FARs, Title 48 CFR 101-105-2. Guidance that is unique to the component contains the organizational acronym and or abbreviation directly following the title. Following acronyms are briefly apply. DHS management include Office of Procurement Operations, Office of Selective Acquisitions, Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, Transportation Security Administration, U.S. Citizen Immigration Services, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Customs Border Protection, U.S. Immigration Custom Enforcement, U.S. Secret Service. 2001-105-3, copies of official versions of the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations are available at the Code Federation, supplemented and revised from time to time. Federal Register, both are available with the Government Printing Office. In paper, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations are available in electronic form, ecfr.gov. Homeland Security Acquisition Management complements the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations, can also be found at dhs.gov. 3106, Office of Management and Budget, Approval of Paperwork Reduction Act. Office of Management and Budget has assigned control numbers that must appear on the upper right-hand corner face page at each solicitation contract modification order. And those numbers are the OPBM control number 1600-002, 1600-005, 1600-003, contractor submission, 1600-004, protest, 1601-023, safeguarding controlled unclassified information, office management, budget approval, assignment of the control numbers controlled and conditioned upon not requiring more than 3 copies of including original any of the documentation and information. Office of Management has granted a waiver permit to the department to require up to 8 copies of proposal package, include proprietary data for solicitation, provide contractors with a submit. Only original or 2 copies will not be placed at a disadvantage. 3001-3 Agency Acquisition Regulation, 3001-301 Policy Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation issued by the Department of Guidance according to the policy cited in the Title 48 CFR 1301. Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations establish the Department of Homeland Security policy and procedures. All of the acquisition activity of the Department of Homeland Security component supplemental acquisition regulations ensure by the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation as Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation supplemental regulation must be reviewed and approved by Chief Procurement Officer with the Chief Procurement Officer authorized submits a proposed current with the publication Federal Register under the FAR's Title 48 CFR Part 1, Subparts 1.3 and 1.5. The Senior Chief Procurement Officer is authorized to issue internal agency guidance for the organizational level of the department and wide procedure contained with the Homeland Security Acquisition Management. The head contracting authority may implement the internal procedure for the supplementing with the FAR's Hsars and HSAMs as provided with the HSAMs 3001-3. A head contracting authority may procedure for the delegated the authority organizational level to meet appropriate component procedures may be more restrictive but require higher approval levels than permitted by the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual unless otherwise specified. Individuals granted by the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation may delegate with under the FARs of the Hsars if they specifically state where the authority is not delegable. Under the Secretary of Management established procedure through the Procurement Directive 04901 Federal Notice of the rules to ensure that the agency acquisition regulations are published with a comment with the Federal Register and conform to the FAR's procedure at FAR's Title 48 CFR Part 15, 3001-301-70 Amendment to the Hsar. The request of the change of the regulation may be recommended by the Department of Homeland Security personnel, other government agencies, or public. Change requests are submitted in the following format: the Department of Homeland Security Attendant Office of the Secretary of Management, Chief Procurement Officer, Washington, D.C. 20528. Procurement consistently state with the problem created with the Hsar's requirement and expressive of the describe of the factual legal reasons for requesting regulatory change. Recommendations identify the recommended change by using correct language, lining with the words that are to be deleted insert in the proposed language in the bracket. If the change with extensive deleted language may be displayed by forming a box with diagonal lines connecting through the corners. Discussion. Explain with the chart and change of the necessary with how to change to solve the problem. Address any cost administrative impact of the government activities, offers, and contracts. Provide any other helpful information, documents, statute, legal decision, regulations, reports, etc. Point of contact. Provide a point of contact answering question regarding recommendations along with a telephone number, email, or other method of reaching the contact. The Hsars maintain with the Chief Procurement Officer for the Hsars and HSAM change processes. Input with the various components, including representative specially designated formulated departmental acquisition policy and procedures, Homeland Security Acquisition Circular. Title 48 CFR 3001-301-72 will be used in amendment to Title 48 Chapter 30. Hsar's notice will be used in the specified expiration date. Interim guidance for the necessary and following circumstances propagate rapidly as possible. Selected material, general narrative manner advance for the Homeland Security Acquisition Circular issuance, disseminated for the other acquisition related information issue guidance that is expected to affect the period of 1 year or less. Effect 301-301-71 effective date. Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation change applies solicitation issued on or effective the date of the change. Contracting officers may either the discretion or amend the solicitation issued before the effective date include the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation changes the provided award of the result contracts will occur on the effective date of the change and will be required by law. Contracting officers must modify existing contracts included with the Hsar changes otherwise where feasible. Contracting officers should consider using changes clauses of the suitable authority to modify existing contracts included with the Hsar changes. 3,301, 72 Homeland Security Acquisition Circulars or Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations. Noticing number Homeland Security Acquisition Circulars and Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations. Notice the mobility number consecutive official year beginning with the number 01, prefix of the last two digits of official year. 2001-303 publication codification. Hsars is issued in Chapter 30, Title 48 CFR with the FAR's numbering illustration of Title 48 CFR 101-105-2 apply with the Hsars coverage for the Hsars. Title 48 CFR Chapter 30 area identified say with the prefix 30 profiles for the complete with the FAR site which extend with the downward to the subparagraph level. Coverage in the Hsars Chapter 30 supplemented with the FARs will use part, subsection, subsections, numbers ending with 70 through 89, and series numbers being at 70 used for provisions and clauses. Coverage of the Hsars, the Title 40 CFR Chapter 30, other than identified with 70 or higher number implemented with the FARs or use identical numbering sequence caption FAR supplement implemented with the may extend with the downward to the subparagraph level. The subparagraph number of letters may be shown with a subsequential. They may be shown with a specified paragraph or subparagraph implemented with the FARs. Title 48 CFR 3003-301 contains subparagraphs A and B because of the subparagraph correlating with the FARs being supplemented with the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation. Title 48 CFR Chapter 30 component unique guidance and supplemental material which is therein not a counterpart of the FARs or Hsars shall be identified using the chapter part and subpart section and subsection numbers 90 and up. Reference and citation cross-reference of the FARs and Homeland Security will be cited as by FAR Federal Acquisition Regulation filed with the FARs number cited with a cross-reference to the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual with the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation cited with the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual filed by the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual number cited the Department Agency component supplemented with the must be parallel with the FARs Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation number except Department Agency supplemental number using subsection numbers 90 and up instead of 70 and up. Shows 19 table of Hsar's numbering or 3,304 3,001-304 Agency Control Compliance and Procedures. Hsar is under the direct oversight of the control of the Department of Homeland Security with the Office of Chief Procurement Officer of the responsible for the evaluation review issue with the Department-wide acquisition regulation guidance with the procurement. According to the Department of Homeland Security regulatory clearance procedures, as each applicable, the head contracting authority may supplement with the Homeland Security acquisition regulation internal components for the issue of the guidance that does not go beyond internal operational procedures that does not have a significant cost administrative impact of the contractors or officer supplementation should be to keep it at a minimum any of the components see with the component specific regulation intended with the solicitation provisions of the contract law with a repetitive basis that must prepare with the continuing with the draft rule with the component legal counsel with the head contracting authority approval with the non-deligible head contracting authority must forward the draft rule of the senior procurement officer, chief procurement officer for the concurrence prior to the further action according to the Department of Homeland Security regulatory clearance procedure approved with the chief procurement officer of the designee will sign with the component specific regulation and it will be integrated with the head's Homeland Security acquisition regulations. B is reserved. C, chief procurement officer responsible for evaluating all proposed regulatory coverage of the Homeland Security acquisition regulation, determine the substance that could apply with the agency to make recommendations with the Federal Acquisition Regulation. 3001-4 deviations as far as in Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation. 3001-403 individual deviations less prescribed by the law of the executive or other regulation. Head contracting authority is authorized to approve of the individual deviations except with respect to FARS Title 48, CFR 32013 and 32014, requirements of the Cost Accounting Standard Board rules and regulations of the Title 48, CFR Chapter 99, FARS Appendix, and Part 50 submit requests of the Hsars of the Title 40, CFR 3001-7000, including complete documentation, justification, and deviations. 3001-404, class deviations, less prescribed by law, executive order, other regulation, and the Chief Procurement Officer for the authorized for the Federal Acquisition Regulation class deviations, except FAR's Title 48, CFR 30-201 and 3 and 201-4 requirements of the Cost Accounting Standard Board, Title 48 CFR Chapter 90 of the Part 50 of the Priority Authorization FAR's Class Deviation. Chief Procurement Officer shall consult with the chairperson of the Chief Civilian Agency Council unless the Chief Procurement Officer determines the urgency precluded for the consultation. FAR's Act Classes Deviation requests shall be determined by the Chief Procurement Officer for the Hsar in Title 48 Subpart 30,001 70 with an incomplete with the documentation justification for deviation, estimated number, type of the contract, effective the Chief Procurement Officer transmit a copy for each approved of the FAR's deviation to the FAR's Secretariat. Subpart 3016, Career Development Contracting Authority Responsibility General, the Department of Homeland Security Delegation 0201, Delegation of the Debt Director of the Management, the Delegation for the Authority of the Secretary of the Undersecretary of Management to manage for the acquisition function, Department of Homeland Security Delegation 0700, Delegation Chief Procurement Officer for the Acquisition Financial Assistant Management, that delegates the authority to the Undersecretary of Management, Chief Procurement Officer for the 3001-602, Contracting Officer 3001-602 for the 3 for the ratification unauthorized comment of the Department of Homeland Security policy requires that the acquisition be made only with the government official of the authority to entering within the acquisition made other than the authorized personnel of the contract. The Department of policy may be considered the serious misconduct of the part of the employee making unauthorized commitment. It may result in disciplinary action being taken against the employee who makes an unauthorized commitment. And so 3001-603 selection, appointment, and termination of appointment. 3001-603-1 General Department of Homeland Security Delegations head of the contracting authority to not redelegate no lower than the chief of the contracting officer for the authorized to select, appointment of contracting officer for the terminate with the employment. So part 3001-7 the department and findings 704 content with the following format should be with the termination findings unless otherwise specified by the FAR's or Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation. Contracting officer is responsible for the department of the determination and findings for the requirement with a technical purpose and responsible for the accuracy, adequacy of support of factual information furnished to the contracting officer. Insert specifically information indicated with the bracket determined findings under the insertion citation appropriate statutory regulatory base for the department and finding for the Department of Homeland Security for the insert contractor activity with granted authority to insert nature and description of the action being approved. Findings of their particular circumstances, fact, the reason, all essential for the support of the determination based on the finding proposed action justified by the applicable statute with the expiration date with the Department of Findings if required signature authorized official with the name and the title, the month, date, and the year and the date. So part 3001-70 other determination waivers, exemption, approval of reviews and submittals. 3001-7000 coordination and approval. Documents requiring chief procurement officer for the request shall be prepared with writing contracting officer submitted with the head contracting author or chief procurement officer approval. 3001-7001 content with general format of Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 3001-704 shall be used to provide justification, support, requisition, determination, waiver, exemption, or approval. We're at 3002 definition, words and terms. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation 3002, the definition, words, and terms. 3002-1, definitions, adequate security meaning for the security protection, common strip of the risk result of the unauthorized activity of the disruption, modification, destruction of information includes ensuring that the information posted on behalf of the agency, information system of the application agent, the operator effectively provide with appropriate confidential integrity, availability, protection, applicable application cost-effective security controls. Chief Information Officer, CIO, meaning for the Director of the Office of the Chief Information Officer. Chief of the Contracting Officer, COCO, meaning for the individual responsible for the Managing Contractor Officer for the component. Chief Procurement Officer, CPO, for the Chief Procurement Executive, CPE. Component means of the following at neither the purpose of the chapter, the Department of Homeland Security or MGMT, include Office of the Program, Procurement Operations, Office of Select the Acquisitions. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, Transportation Security Administration, TSA, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, UCIS, U.S. Coast Guard, USCG, Customs and Border Protection, CBP, U.S. Integration, Custom Enforcement, ICE, and U.S. Secret Services. Contracting activities include contracting officer for the component of the chain for the procuring activity, contracting officer for the individual author of the virtue position by the employment of performance from the functions found with the Federal Acquisition Regulation, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation. Control the unclassified information government create for the possessive, the entity for the create, and possessive of the behalf of the government over the unclassified information law regulation, governmental-wide policy require of the permanent agency to handle the use of the safeguarding, disseminate control of the definition, include with the CUI, control use unclassified information categories and subcategories information. Chemical terrorism vulnerability information with a defined in Title CFR 6 CFR Part 27 Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standard with the further to describe the supplementary content issued with the authorized official with the Department of Homeland Security, include with the revised procedural manual safeguarding information designated as a chemical terrorism vulnerability information dated in September 2008. Protected critical infrastructure information with the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of 2002. The PCCIA, the Protected Civilian Infrastructure Information Regulations of the Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Program Procedure Manual Supplemental Guidance Official Communicator Authorized Official of the Department of Homeland Security Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Management of the Protected Critical Infrastructure Information Program Manager Designee Sensitive Security Information that defined in Title 49 CFR Part 1520 Protected with the Security Information Admin for the Supplementary Guidance Official with the Communicator with the Authorized Official with the Department of Homeland Security, including Assistant Secretary of the Transportation Security Administration or Designee, including the Department of Homeland Security MD 110561 Sensitive Security Information Transportation Security Administration TSA MD 2810-1. The Sensitive Security Information Program, Homeland Security Agreement, and information with the means of the information with the Department of Homeland Security received with the person with the agreement of the state and local, tribal, territorial, private sector with the Department is required with the protected by with the agreement of the Department to receive with the information for the mission of the Department to include, but not limited to, support with the fusion center with the initiative with the activity cyber information shall be considered within cybersecurity information sharing with the 2005 with the Homeland Security Enforcement information means unclassified information sensitive with the nature of the lawful created with the possession and transmission with the Department of Homeland Security with the furtherance of the business mitigation, customs, and other civil and criminal enforcement missions, or unauthorized disclosure which could adversely impact the mission of the Department of International Agreement and Information, with the information of the Department of Homeland Security received with the requirement to protect by information sharing with agreement with the foreign government and national organization governs for the element of the international foreign public judicial body with the international foreign private and non-governmental organization. So for the information system vulnerability information system means the Department of Homeland Security information technology system with data related feeling infrastructure server the staff of the networks of the application name with the version of the release of the switch routing with the gateway information interconnection to access method of the emission of the business use and needs examples of the information system vulnerability informations are systems inventories comprised of extra architectural models information pertaining to the national security system eligible to classification executive order 1352-6 will be classified as appropriate and or information relating developed with the current technology release that would interfere and hinder with the objective of the Department to compromise with the technological advantage of the countermeasure with the denial so provide adversely sufficient information to clone counterfeit with the circumvent with the process with the system operation security with the information with the Department of Homeland Security information could be collectively analyzed exploited with the foreign advisory adversary to identify with the intention capability operation vulnerability threat and operational security with the mission with the Department of Personal Security information means the information could draw with the physical bridge with the Department of Homeland Security personnel or the individuals with the Department of responsible for protecting physical security information means of the review of the reports illustrating disclosure of the facility infrastructure security with the vulnerability related with the protection federal building grounds property for the example these assessment for the system securities with the contingency plan risk management plan with the business impact analysis stay with the certification accreditation documentation privacy information includes both the personal identifiable information simply the personal identifiable information the personal identified information refers to information that can be used to distinguish trade with the individual's identity with either alone with the combined with the other information the linked with the linkable with the specific information the specific sensitive of the personal identifiable information is a subset of the personal identifiable information that is laws with compromise or discover the authorized result of the substantial harm and embarrassment inconvenient of the unfairness to the individual determine whether the information of the personal identifiable information of the Department of Homeland Security will perform the assessments of the risk of the individual could identify with you the information with the other information linked to the linkable to the individual performing the assessment. Important with the recognize that the information is not personal identifiable. The information could be impersonal identifiable information whenever the additional information becomes available to any of the medium from any source that would make it possible to identify with the individual. Certain data elements are particularly sensitive that must be alone present and increase the risk of the harm to the individual. Examples: standalone personal identifiable information, particularly sensitive to the social security number, the driver license, state identification number, the alien registration numbers, and financial account numbers and biometric identifiers of the multi-piece information may present with the increased risk of the harm of an individual combined with the possessing increased risk of the harm of individuals. The sense of the personal identifiable information will also see if the grouping the information contained with the individual names of the unique identifier plus one or more of the following elements: true indicated social security number, last four digits, date of birth, month, day, and year, citizen, immigration status, ethnic, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, criminal history, medical information, systematic verification, authentication information such as mother, birth, name, actual account passwords, personal identifiable numbers. Other personal identifiable information presented the increased risk of the harm to an individual depending on the context, such as a list of the employees, their performance ratings, or unlisted with the home and address with the phone number. The context include the purpose of the personal identifiable information was collected and maintained. The assessment of the critical for the same information, different content for the additional information impacted individual federal information, means the information created, collected, processed, maintained with the disseminated, disclosed, disposed of by the federal government, if any of the medium or the form, federal information system operated by the agency or by contracting the agency of an agency or other agency on behalf of the agency, handling means of the use of the controlled unclassified information included but not limited to this marketing, safeguarding, transporting, disseminating, reusing, disposing of the information, head of the agency, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security with the delegation under Secretary of Management, head of the contracting authority, means official of the overall responsible for the management of the contracting of the Department of Homeland Security, head contracting authority, or the director of the procurement office operations, director of office selective acquisitions, director of office acquisition management, chief of the procurement division, System Administrator, Contract Procurement, TSA, Chief of the Office of the Contracting, UCIS, Director of Contracting Procurement, U.S. Coast Guard, Deputy Assistant Commissioner of the Office of the Acquisition, Customs Border Patrol, Director of the Office of Acquisition, ICE, Chief Procurement Operations, Information Resource of the means information related with the resource of the person with equipment, and some of the information technology, information security, means protecting information unauthorized with the disruption of the modification of the destruction of an order to provide the integrity of the which mean with the guard with against for the improper forming information modification destruction include with the ensure the information repetition and authenticity confidential, which means with the preserving the authorized restriction of data and action for the disclosure include with the means for the protecting personal privacy proprietary information available, which means the assuming timely and reliable access to the use of the information system means with a discrete set of the information resource for the organized collection process made into use and sharing with disseminating the disposition information legal counsel for the Department of Homeland Security Office of the General Counsel would include with the component office of the providing legal service contracting organizational legal review means review by legal counsel. Major systems means for the Department of Homeland Security the combination of the elements of the function of the able to produce the capabilities required with the fulfill machine needs including the hardware equipment that's offered with the combination thereof, but excluded with the construction of the other improvement that's real property with the Department of Homeland Security majority system. From the total life cycle cost of the system that is estimated equal to exceed $300 million in constant with the 2009 the Deputy Secretary of the heads designated with the program project of the major system with the corresponding with the Department of Homeland Security level 1 and level 2 capital investment acquisition. Micro purchase threshold is defined with the FARS Title 48 CFR 2 101, except for the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 13 7003A applies. Senior Procurement Executive Officer of the Department of Homeland Security means the individual appointed for the pursuant of the Title 41 U.S. Standard Code 1702C. Senior Procurement Executive for the responsible for the management and the direction of the procurement of the Department of Homeland Security include with the implementation and use of the procurement and policies Regulations stand with the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Homeland Security Procurement Chief, the Procurement Officer, with the Senior Procurement Executive of the Department of Homeland Security is the only individual with the Department of Homeland Security with the bearer of the Chief Procurement Officer. Sensitive information due to the chapter means the information which is lawful to misuse with the disclosure without authorization, instead of the modified with conversely effect with the national homeland security interest of the conduct with the federal programs and privacy with which of the individuals entitled with the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552A with the Privacy Act, which has not been specifically authorized with the criteria established with the executive order or an act of the Congress with the capacity with the interest of the national defense, home security with the foreign policy. The definition include with the categories information protected critical infrastructure, information with the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of the 2002, as amended with the implemented regulations with the Title 6 CFR Part 29, as amended with the applicable with the protected critical infrastructure information procedure manual with this amended with any of the supplementary guides for the official communicated with the authorized with the Department of Homeland Security agent security. Sensitive security information with the defined in Title 49 CFR 1520 with the policy procedure for the safeguarding control of the sensitive security information is amended. Any supplemental guidance official will communicate with the authorized officials of the Department of Homeland Security, including the Assistant Secretary of the Transportation Security Administration with his or her designated information designated for use officials use only with the unclassified information sensitive to the nature of the unauthorized disclosure of the could adversely impact the person, privacy, welfare for the conduct of the federal program and the program's operation essential for the national homeland security interests. Any information designated sensitive to the subject of the other control safeguard protections according to the subsequent adapted for the Homeland Security Information Handling Procedures 3002 with abbreviations CBA-CA, Civilian Board Contract Appeals, CFH, Chief Financial Officer, CIO, Chief Information Officer, COC, Chief of the Contracting Officer, COR, Contracting Officer Representative, CPO, Chief Procurement Officer, DNF, Determinant Findings, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, Head of Contracting Authority, HCA, J, and A, Justification Approval other than full and open competition, MD, Management Directive, OCPCO, Office of Chief Procurement Officer, OIG, Office of Inspector General, OSDBM, OSDBU, Office of Small Disadvantaged Business, Utilization, PCR, SBA, Procurement Center Representative, RFP, Request for Proposal, SBA, Small Business Administration, SBS, Small Business Specialist, SPE, Senior Procurement Executive. Alright, 3003. Homeland Security Acquisition Regulations, Part 3003, Improper Business Procedure for the Personal Conflicts with the Interest. Or 3003-1, Safeguards, the standard for the conduct of 1013 with the agency for the regulation, United States of the government has propagated for the regulation applicant to execute the branch of the draft, the conduct matters, reference for the forest Title 48 CFR 31013 with the C with the Title 5 CFR Volume 3, Chapter 16, Subchapter B. Department of Homeland Security has issued the Supplemental Ethic Regulation Title 5 CFR Part 4601, Management Directive with the 04801, Ethics Standard for Conduct, Subpart 3003-2, Contract Gratuity for the government personnel reporting suspected violation gratuities clause. Subject violation shall be reported with the contracting official for the records of the acquisition and the contracting officer for the shall obtain with the person reporting of the violation any witness violation following the information date and time and place suspected violation name of the title individuals involved with the violation with the detail of the violation to obtain with the contract of favorable treatment and with the contract of the person reporting the violation with the witness with the shall be requested and signed with the date with the information certifying the information furnished and true and correct. Contract will also submit with the report of due the contracting officer unless allocated violation reported with the contracting officer of the head of the contracting authority for the further action contracting officer of the head contracting authority to determine the advice for the component legal counsel for the whatever the case for the warrant submission with the office of the inspector general of the other investigatory organization 3003-204 treatment of violation of the head contracting authority officer for the designated to make with the determination of the Title 48 CFR 3204A with whatever the gratitude violations of the head contracting authority personally substantially involved with a specific pyramid device with the legal counsel for the determining the chief procurement officer for the designated the alternate decision maker with the head contracting authority ensure the hearing of the procedure required by as far as Title 48 CFR 3204A and offered for the contract of legal counsel consult with the regarding the appropriateness of the hearing procedure for the established the head contracting officer that determines alleged gratitude violation of the head contracting authority shall consult with the legal counsel regarding appropriate action when notifying the officer of the inspector general 3003-3 3. Reports of suspected antitrust violation 3003-301. General the procedure that has Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 3003-203. Follow the suspected antitrust violation except for the reports suspected antitrust violations coordinated. Legal counsel rule of the Department of Justice over the deemed appropriate 3003-4 contingent fee for the 405 of the misrepresentative violation covenant against the contingent fee procedure for the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3003-203 shall be filed with a misrepresentation violation of the covenant against the contingent fee for the procedure for the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3003-203 with the file for the misrepresentation violation covenant against contingent fees except for the report of misrepresentation violation covenant against the contingent fee for the coordinated with the legal counsel of the Department of Justice deemed appropriate. Subpart 3003-5 other important improper business practices of 502 subcontractor kickbacks 5022 subcontractor kickbacks Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General receipt of the prime contractor subcontractor written report 3003-9 whistleblower protection contractor employee with the definition authorized official of the agency for the Department of Homeland Security Chief Procurement Officer for 3003-10 Contractor Code of Business Ethics and Conduct 3003-1003 requirement contractors make with a written disclosure under clause FAR's Title 48 CFR 52-203-13 must be with electronic contractor disclosure form edited with the Office of Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security.gov Office of Inspector General Department of Homeland Security.gov reports on publication annual contract disclosure contractors making disclosure under the contracts must contain with the clause with the Title 48 CFR 52-203-13 encourage the use of electronic form 3003-1004 contract law of the contract officer shall ensure with the clause of the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 30-52-2003-70 strict the contractor closure violation solicitation contractors contained with the clause of the Title 48 CFR 52-203-13. Alright, that was 3003-3004. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation 3004 Administrative Matters 3004 Contract Execution 103 Contractor Clause Instead of the clause of the Title 48 CFR 52-204-1 will contract and solicitation for the award resolve of the contract with the contracting official officer for the level 3004-4 Safeguarding classified controlled unclassified information with the industry the source of the Title 8 Federal Register for the 40597 on July 21st 2023 the otherwise known as 3400 for the Security Requirements Act of the unclassified facility with the information research for the control of unclassified information 3004-471 scope of the section implemented with the Department of Homeland Security policy with the adequate security of the unclassified information facility with the information research for the control of the unclassified information during the acquisition life cycle 3004-472 with the definitions within this part of the intent the meaning of the occurrence of the actual implement and jeopardize with the lawful authority integrity confidential availability information or information systems constitute with the violation imminent threat of the violation of the law security policy security procedures acceptable use policy 3004-473-3 policy with the Department of Homeland Security Control CUI safeguard with the Department of Homeland Security owns the information system Department of Homeland Security owns in contract with the operated information system with the contractor owner of the operator of the information system operating on the behalf of the department in any situation with the contractor subcontractor employees may have the use of the CUI because collision with the Department of Homeland Security supplemented with the Department of Policy with the procedures and also with the address the safeguarding of the CUI complying with these policy with the procedure as amended as required. Department of Homeland Security requires contractor employee with the requiring acts of the government facility with the acts of the CUI to complete such forms may be necessary for the other reasons that include with the content with the background and investigation determine the fitness of the Department of Policy and the procedure with the dead drive with the contract with the employee fitness containing instructional handbook number 121-01007 the Department of Homeland Security Personal Security Program compliance with these policies and procedures as amended as required. 474 contract law for the contracting officer for the show and serve of the place clause of the Title 48 CFR 30-52-204-71 contractor employee acts for the solicitation contractors for the contractor subcontractor employees requiring requiring access of the government official for the activity of the contracting officer for the basic cost of the alternate one of the acquisition requiring contractor access for the government information reach for the acquisition of which the contractor subcontractor employees will not have access to the government information to service of the department to determine the contract for the subcontractor employee with the CU with the government official with it must be limited U.S. citizens and limited lawful permanent residents of the contracting officer shall ensure that the clause for the alternate two with the beneath the basic clause with nowhere alternate shall be used unless contractor or subcontractor employees will require access to the government facilities, access to the CU with neither basic clause of the alternate should ordinarily with the contracts of the educational institutions. B. Contractor officers should include insert the clause of Hsar with Title 40 CFR 3052-204 72 safeguarding controlled unified and classified information solicitation contracts where contractor and subcontractor employees have the access to the contractor controlled unclassified information where contractor controlled unclassified information will be collected and maintained on behalf of the agency. Contracting officers shall ensure the basic clause of the alternate federal information system included the contracting information system operating on behalf of the agency used to collect the process store with the transmit controlled unit classified information. Contractor officer insert the clause of the Title 48 CFR 3052-204 set for the notification credit for the monitoring requirements, personal identifiable information, insert for the solicitation contracts whether the contract subcontractor employee that have access to personal identifiable information. 3004A Government Contract Clause Contract Files 804 Closeout and Contract Files 804.5 Procedure for the Closing Out Contract Files 804.570 Supporting Closing Documents. Applicable to the prior contract clause with the contracting officer shall be a list obtained with the list of the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense forms for the contract closeout, Department of Homeland Security Form 703 for the contract release, 702 contractor assignment of the refunds and rebates credits for the other amounts. The Department of Homeland Security 701 cumulative claim and reconciliation statement of the Department of Defense Form 882. The report and invention subcontractor forms listed in this section are used primarily to close out with the cost reimbursement, time, materials, labor, hours, contracts, and the forms may be issued for the closeout with the other contract for the protect for the government interest. Part 3005, publicizing contracting actions. 3005-4, release of information to general public courts with the specific record of the information process with the coin with the Department of Homeland Security Freedom of Information Act rules and regulations, Title 48 CFR 30-24-203, 47 the contractor award of announcement of the advertisement release, 471 policy of the Department of Homeland Security required with the contracting office with the Department of Homeland Security contract with referring to the Department of Homeland Security contracts, commercial advertising, managing, state with imply with the government approved with the endorsement of the contract product with the services of the consider the superior with the products and services of the intent for the policy for the prevent appearance of the government bias for the order of the product and service of the contract with the Department of Contractor share with the responsible for the protecting of the classified information related to efforts with the contract with any of the contract involved since of the classified information prior to release. Any contract award announcement with the advertisement of the release information pertaining to the contractor. Contractor must be obtained with approval of the responsible for the contracting officer. 472 with the contract clause, the insert of the clause of the Title 48 CFR 3052-205-70 advertisement, publicizing, award, and release and solicitation contract with the simplified acquisition of thresholds, given the ratio with the educational institution contract involved sensitive classified information clause with the alternate one of the research contracts of the educational institution. C with the Title 48 CFR 3035-72B. Support 3005-90 publicizing contract action for the personal serve of the contract 9000 applicable United States Coast Guard contracts award with the U.S. Coast Guard using procedure for the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, Title 48 CFR 3037-104-91, especially authorized by the Coast Guard under Title 10 U.S. Standard Code 1091 are exempt from FAR's 48 CFR Part 5. Alright, 3006 with competition requirements. 3006 with the full and open competition 101, policy 101-70 definitions. Agency competition of activity for the individual listed with the chief procurement officer for the perform the minimum function for the FAR of Title 48 CFR 6502 with the B with the H with the synonymous with the Department of Competition Advocate, Senior Competition Advocate with the Competition Advocate procuring activity the individual has been with the designated with the approved with the justification approval with the other than half of the opening with the competition permitted with the 48 CFR 304 to perform the duties responsible assigned under Title 48 CFR 6502 with a term that is synonymous for the procuring activity component advocate 6 support 3062 full open competition after exclusion sources establishing and maintaining alternate sources 202 with the head contracting authority delegated authority over the determinations and finding support for the contracting award over the authority of the FARS Title 48 CFR 6202A submitting department determination and findings in the format per the Hsar Title 48 CFR 3001-704 3006 the other full open competition circumstances 302 circumstances permitting other than full and open competition 302-1 only a responsible server with no other supply server that will satisfy the adequate agency requirement. The contractor officer may rely on exemption in the case of only one server able to provide additional unit with the replacement item with the space with the make with the model requirement but only with the chief procurement officer determined according to the agency standardization program and the specific make with the model will satisfy the agency's need of 3,302 with the 270 unusual compelling urgency T13 with the contractor award responsible to recover the natural disaster, act with the terror with another man-made with the disaster for life, the exemption period for the performance should be limited to minimum period necessary to meet urgency for the complying the requirements for the work of the performed to enter with the of the contract for the required goods for the services of the use for the competitive the proceed with no event with the period to exclude 150 days and left with the head of the contracting authority higher with the approval of the authority required with the Title 48 CFR 36304 with the Department of Homeland Security determine exceptional circumstances apply with the proof of the justification set forth in the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 306304 limitation period of performance apply with the contracts award with the performance to and recover from the major disaster emergency declared for the President under Title 4 or Title 5 of the Robert T. Stafford the Disaster Relief Emergency Aid Assistance Act as amended in Title 42 U.S. Code 5121 5207 uncontrolled fire for the fire complex threatened with the destruction was constant for the major disaster for the Federal Emergency Management Agency with approved the Fire Management Assistance Declaration according to the regulatory criteria Title 44 CFR 204-21 or the end of the National Operations of the National Response Coordination of the coordinator with the activation of the appropriate emergency support function of the Secretary of Homeland Security designated with the Federal Resource the coordinator with the bench for the Federal Resource Support 302 with the 7 the public interest for the request shall be permitted with the writing of the contractor officer for the using the format found in the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3001-704 submitted to the head contracting authority the chief procurement officer for the review with the transmitted with the Secretary of the approval of justification 303 303 270 content of the proposed contract for the subject of the restricted and Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3006 302 270 D13 and where as far as the 48 CFR 6302 cited author or the exemption for the circumstance aligned with awarded period of performance in excess of 150 days 304 approval of justification 304-70 permanent Homeland Security approval of the justification other than full and open competition of the site of Title 48 CFR section 6302 the two authorities approve of the writing of the head contracting authority and lift the higher approval of the authorities regarding the Title 48 CFR section 6304 permanent Homeland Security proposed the Department of Homeland Security contractor facility with the response of the recovery of the natural disaster act of terrorism nothing may amend the disaster period of performance excessive with 150 days justification make of the plane with the exemptional circumstance for the justified with the duration of the contract authority may not be redelegated with the head contracting authority 3065 competition advocates 501 requirement the Department of Homeland Security competition advocate is located in the office of the chief of the procurement officer support 3069 the competition requirement of personal service the contracting 9000 applicably U.S. Coast Guard with the contractor award with the U.S. Coast Guard proceeded with the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 3037-10491 responsibly authorized under Section 11091 of the Title 10 U.S. Standard Code as amended with the Coast Guard with exemption of the completion requirements of the Title 48 CFR Part 6. Part 3000 Acquisition Planning 3007-1 Acquisition Planning 106 with additional requirement of major system 106-70 elimination of lead system integrators. See Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Title 48 CFR 3009-570 for the policy applicable acquisition strategy to conserve the lead system integrators. Part 3008 required forces to supply service reserved. Contractor Qualification 3009. 3009, responsible with respect of the contractor. 108, with the prohibition of the contract corporate expertise. 1008, 7001, except for the provided with the end of the Title 48 CFR 3009, 108, 7004, Department of Homeland Security may not enter within the contract for an incorporated entity with which is try either inverted domestic corporation under subsection B with a section 835 of the Homeland Security Act of Title 6 U.S. Standard Code 395 within subsidiary such of the entity with 3009, 1008, 7002. Definition expanded alternate affiliated group means with affiliated graded as defined in 1504 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, exempt with section 1504 of the Cush Code with a substitute of more than 50% of at least 80% of each place it appears. For an incorporated entity that means an entity with which with the for section 835 with the Homeland Security Act of the Title 6 United States Code 395B with it would be true with the foreign corporation for the purpose of the Internal Revenue Act of the 1986 inverted domestic corporation of foreign incorporated entity should be treated with as inverted domestic corporation pursuing the plan for the stream with a related transaction. Any complete with the direct and indirect acquisition substantial all of the property with it held directly and indirectly with the domestic corporation substantially all of the property consolidated to the trade of the business domestic partnership after the acquisition at least 80% of the stock over the value of the entity is held in case of the acquisition of the domestic corporation form and share of the domestic corporation by reason of the holding stock of the domestic corporation. This case has acquisition with the domestic partnership of the former partners over the domestic partnership reason hold on a capital profit and each of the domestic partnership of the expanded with an affiliated group of the acquisition group of the entity does not have a substantial business activity in a foreign country in which under the law of which of the entities are organized with a compare with the total business activity expanded with an affiliated group of the person of domestic or foreign have given itself the terms of paragraphs 1 and 4 and 5 of section 77001 and Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as respective 3009, 1108, 7003 special rule following special rule shall apply for the determining whether the foreign incorporated entity shall be treated with the inverted with domestic corporation certain side disregard proof of the treating of the foreign incorporated with the inverted domestic corporation of these may not take into account with the determining ownership of the fact held by the members of the expanded with the affiliated group that include the foreign incorporated entity stock of such entity which is over the public offering and related to the acquisition delegated described in subsection B1 of the 835 Homeland Security Act of Title 6 U.S. Standard Code 395B 1 plan deemed in certain cases with the foreign incorporated with the entity with the enter with the direct with the indirect substantially all of the property of the domestic corporation partnership during the 4-year period beginning with the date of the 2 years from the ownership of the requirement of section 835B2 with the act with the such action with agree with the pursuing of the plan certain transfer disregard of the transfer of the person and property with the liability would include the contribution the distribution shall the disregard of the transfer of the part of the plan with the principal purpose of the law for the purpose of the section special rule related partnership for the purpose of applying the subsection B with the acquisition domestic partnership with respect with the provide with the regulation domestic partnership with the common control with the meaning with the 482 with the Internal Revenue Code 1986 somebody treated as a partner term of certain rights should be treated as stock as extent of the necessary the offer the present value of the equitable interest of the of the transaction for all of the warrant option of the contract the acquire of the stock with the convertible instrument of the similar interest of the rights labeled the stock should not retrieve the stock whenever the deemed appropriate to reflect the present value of the transaction disregard of the transaction recognition with the defeat for the purpose of the 835 of this Act, Section 3009, 108, 7004 waivers. Secretary shall waive the provisions of the Title 48 CFR 3009, 108, 7001 with respect to the specific contract secretary with the terms of the waiver that is required for the interest of the national security. Contract submitted with a waiver request for the CPO with a copy to waiver the request to approve the waiver attached for the bid and proposals 108, 7005 provision interest provisions of the Title 48 CFR 3052, 209 70 prohibition contract corporate expertise and all solicitation 3001 71 prohibition and federal protective services with regards over the contract business concern owned control the operator with an individual convicted of a felony 171 general provided with the Homeland Security Title 48 CFR 3009 171 6 and 171 7 the Department of Homeland Security contracting officer will not enter the contract with the coverage of the federal procurement officer of the serve the program with the business owned concerned owner control the operator with an individual convicted of serious felony 3009 171 2 the definition of business concern with the meaning of commercial enterprise person who constitute Felony means offensive which committed with a natural person punishable with death, imprisonment with a term exceeding 1 year. Convicted of felony means of any conviction over the felony violation state with the federal criminal statute, including the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which whether entered in verdict of the plea with a no contender for which the sentence has been imposed. Integral means of the person, corporation, partnership, or the other new legally independent status for the 171.3 of the government eligibility award ordered by the FPS of the guards over the contracting officer shall make the determination eligible for the FPS guards over the contract with identification agreement with the successful officer for the result of the solicitation of the officers. Contractors require that they immediately notify the contractor of the writing of the filing of the conviction over the person who owns or controls or operates a business with concern with the defined file with the Title 40 CFR 3009-171-4 the time term of the duration for the indefinite delivery and the definite quantity control of the blanket purchase of the agreement over the contract launch for the may result of the issue for the task over the cause for the executors. So as option to the extent of the term of the contract upon notification of felony with the conviction of the contractor officer with the new determination eligible prior with the issue with the any of the task over the cause exercise for the option 2009-171 determination ownership of the control of the wherever the individual owns of the control of the operator of the business control of the term of the specific fact for the case for the reference of the factor for the identified with the paragraphs B and C with the subsection of the prior of the contract reward. The individual must provide with additional information contract with the officer of the contract and officer of the course of the agency with the determination ownership of the control of the operation with the refusal of the provide with the timely provide with the documentation may serve with the grounds with the contracting officer the review of the make of the contract and award with the business concern of financial voting, operational employment, the interest of the business, concern with the spouse of the child, with the other family member, of the brother, pursuing, sharing household with the individual, imputed with the individual, determining whether the extent of the individual owns or controls or operates the business concern with the individual owns with the control of the operator of the business concern, fulfilling and holding with the following type of the rules with the interest for the business concern. Director officer of the involved with the incompetent boards of the officer of the performing the duty of the board ordinarily performed with the chairman of the board or a member of the board of directors, secretary of the treasurer of the president, the vice president, chief official of the business concern, including chief financial officer, chief operating officer, with the chief contracting official, with the office of the comparable function, with the status of the described in the paragraph C1 subsection E, except exists on the partnership in all kind with the operating business organization, including sole proprietorship with the general limited liability partnership, the individual limited partnership with interest of the 25% or more. Individual have the power to vote with the directly indirectly of 25% of the more interest of the acting class of the voting stock of the business concern, with the directly manner of the election with the majority of the business concern with the director of the trustee with the ability to act over the control and influence with the other business concern of the management policy of the decision making, generally with the existence of the one or more of the roles of the insurer with the set forth in paragraph C with the subsection include with the roles risk interest attributed with the individual with the position with the term of the individual own with the cooperative of the business concern with the have specific fact with the case if it were made one with the term different determination by the contracting officer where under the example the indicator paragraph C with the subsection light of all of the facts and circumstances if the individual lacks sufficient authority or autonomy to exert the authority customarily associated with the ownership and control of the assertion of the operational prerogative of the individual one over the 20 of the board of directors plays no other role, holds no other interest. Conversely, ownership of the control of the ability to operate with the business control of the fact exists and the fact that can be reflected by the others' roles and interests. 2009-171-5 serious felonies prohibiting an award. Only serious felony with a conviction for the prohibited business criminal being awarded with a contract with the FPS with the guards or with the senior felony of the prohibited contract award with any of the felony dishonorably fraudulently deceive with a misrepresentation, deliberate violence, reflect with the partially with the individual's hostility with the trustworthiness, fitness, own with the control of the business concern with the integrity of the business act with the business concern, or nature inconsistent with the mission of the FPS with including the limitation felonies listed in the paragraph B with the 1 through 12 is the subsection. Following list of felonies determined the Department of Homeland Security for the Sheriff of the felonies proposed for the federal procurement and conserve the guard of the Reform Act of 2008 with except the providing the Title 40 CFR 3009-171-7 and F of the order for the FPS of the guard service will be made for the business of the own for the control of the operative of the individual have been convicted of felony involving 1. Fraud any of the types including with the rising of the procurement over the contract cooperative agreement over the grant and system of the relationship with the federal, state, and local government as with the limitation of embezzlement with the fraudulent conversion claims called for the false claim statement, a kickback for the misappropriation property, for the unfair, for the disruptive, for the trade practice, for the restraint, for the trade, for the bribery, graft, the conflict, for the interest, threat, and actual harm to the government official, for the family member, threat, actual harm to, for the government property, crime, violence, for the threat, for the national security, commercial bribery, counterfeiting, or forgery, obstacle, for the jury, justice, procuring, subordinate perjury, for the bribery, for the witness, attempt to evade, for the defeat, for the federal tax and welfare, for the collect, for the pay over the federal tax tracking, illegal drug, alcohol, firearms, explosive, with the other weapons, immigrating violations, and any other felony involved with the dishonest, with the fraud, deceit, misrepresentation, deliberate violence, for the reflect adversely with the individual's trustworthiness, limited fitness, owned with control of the operator business, control of the case for the doubt with the integrity business, like the business secure. Concerning the nature of the inconsistent with the admission of the FPS of the 171.6 of the guideline for the contracting officer, corner for the fire subpart for the 9.4 for the contracting officer may not do over the FPS with the guards over the business concerning with the suspend with the department with the pro with the department with the agency head for the determines with the compelling reason for the less action of the contracting officer for the shall not award for the FPS with the server the business concerning with the otherwise non-reasonable for the same contract. Contracting officer should be not awarded for the FPS guards over the contract of the business for the owned for the control of the operator, individual control, victor of serious felony defined in the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3009-171.5 that is provided with the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3009-171.7 and considering requests under request under Title 48 CFR 3009-171.7, contractor may not review the fact of the conviction itself without consider the information protected by the individual business concerning information contracting officer. The fact of the contracting officer include, but they are not limited to, age conviction, nature of the circumstances surrounding the conviction, the protective measures taken for the individual business, and to reduce the eliminated risk of the further misconduct for the individual made full restitution of the felony, where the individual actually responsibly misconduct resolve of the felony convictions. Contract award approval for the contractor with felony conviction of the head contracting authority discretion of the request for the permanent approval over the FPS over the guards over the business concerned owned with the contract with operating by the individual convicted of the felony and release permanent with the regulation authority of the non-intelligible business concerned with the operated within control of the individual convicted of the felony and not including a serious felony may submit an award required for the contracting officer on the basis of the such of the request. Such felony is not a serious felony defined with the regulation individual that no longer does no or longer owns, controls, operates a business concerned with the business series of the felony, no low opposes the Control Risk Act with the regulation of the design guard against business shall burden with the proof of the act award request. Copy the approval of the request for the such of the documentation previously approved of the award request attached for the bid and proposal for the award approval of the request shall continue the basis of the request include with the minimum of the following information: name of the day of the birth and involved convicted felon, full description of the role that the indicated individual owns, operates, and may control of the operator business concerning the date, sends for the statute, with the trial of the docket, in the case of the number of court jurisdiction, of the need for the circumstance surrounding with the conviction, protective measure for the take of the individual business, cover the reduced, eliminate risk for the misconduct for the individual have made restitution of the felony, for the individual accepted responsible for the past misconduct, resolve of the felony conviction, contract for the authority unable to permanently determine the subject of the felony if it is not a serious felony with a described in Title 48 CFR 3009-171.5 of the individual who controls operating business for the commission of such felony with the following calls question of the individual business concerned with integrity of the business act with consistent with the mission of the FPS contracting officer of the denial of the award or approval of the request no forward such request for the head contracting authority felonies from the meet with any of the following condition contracting authority refer of the award request copying over the contract of the termination to the head contracting authority for a recommendation over the approval. So particular felony is not a serious felony defined within the regulation collective with an individual that does not or no longer own the controls to operate business concerning the commission of the chair that no longer called to the question individual business concerning the integrity business like the award will be inconsistent with the mission of the FPS. The contracting award authority make the final written decision on the award approval of the request for the referral of any of the necessary additional inquiry. 171.8 ineligible. The contract for the business for the determined ineligible award of the Title 48 CFR 3009-171.5 to 3009-171.7 shall be ineligible to proceed with the contract with the guards over the time for the FPS guard program until such a time of the concern with the demonstration of the address resolve the issue, the resolve of the determination eligibility a contract of the war, you approve of the award request under the Title 48 CFR 3009-171.7. 3009-171.9. Insert for the clause of the Title 48 CFR 3030 3052-209-72 with the prohibition of federal protected serve with the guard, serve with the contract with the business, with the own and control with the operated by individual convicted of felony, also solicitation contract of the federal procurement service with guard services 3009-4 reserve 3009-5 organizational council consultant conflicts of interest solicitation provision contract laws reserve 507 one solicitation call for the contractor officer and the clause substantial same with the 3052 209-72 organizational conflict interest and solicitation contract potential with the organizational conflict interest exists and the mitigation may be found for the contractor to ensure that conditions enumerated with the Title 48 CFR Part 95 warrant with the inclusion of the contractor officer include the information of Title 48 CFR 95071 and 3052-209-72 of the Hsar is 3,90507 and 2 contract clause. Contractor officer shall be clause in substantial same with the clause for the Title 48 CFR 3052-209-72 limitation future contracting solicitation contracts when a potential organizational conflict of interest exists and mitigation is not feasible. 570, the limitation contractor annual lead system integrators. Definition of direct financial interest that you've been defined within the call of the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 352-209-75 prohibited financial interest of lead system integrators. Lead system integrator is within the second defined clause of Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3052-209-75 prohibited financial insurance of the lead system integrators. 572 policy, except for the providing paragraph D with a subsection of the title under Title 6 U.S. Stand Code 396, if not no end with a performed leading system of the integrated factoring function with the acquisition major system of the Department of Homeland Security may be the indirect, made direct and financial of the development of the construction of the individual system element system of the system, some of the program of the entity performing lead system integrator functions. Prohibition in paragraph A of the subsection does not apply with the Secretary of Homeland Security certified with the Committee for the Operations of the Senate, with the House Representative of the Committee for the Homeland Security, with the House of the Representative, with the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, the House of Representatives, Committee on Homeland Security, Government Affairs, with the Senate, with the Committee of the Commerce and Science, with the Transportation, with the Senate, with the EDNI, with the Select, with the Department of Homeland Security, with the Contract, with the Development, with the Construction, with the System Element, concerned with the youth, with the competitive pursuit, with the Department of Homeland Security, appropriate step of the prevent with the organizational conflict interest selection process, and he was selected by a subcontractor serve as a low carrier subcontractor through the process over the qua, and he was exercise no control of the construction, nothing in subsection 3009-570 shall contribute to preclude any of the discrepancies of paragraph A subsection A of the performing work necessary to integrate with the two or more individual systems elements of the systems or systems with each other. The 3,573 procedures making responsible determination being in the war with the contractor acquisition major system contractor officer shall determine whether the prospective contractor meet with the definition of lead system integrated with the information regarding with the prospective the contractor direct the financial interest of the view of the prohibition with the Title 48 CFR 3,572A. Apply the following procedures after assisting the officer with the direct financial interest of the development of the construction of the individual system element of any of the system of the system. The officer for the head with no direct interest within such a system. The contractor officer for the document with the contractor file and effect with the further the construction of the officer for the award of the contractor with the director of financial interest of such a system exemption for the Hsar 3009-572B2. Applies the contractor officer for the document the contract file to the effective of the made with the further consider of the officer of the award of the contract had the direct financial interest in such a exemption for the Hsar 3009-572B2 that does not apply with the condition of 3009-572B1 and 2 do apply with the contract officer of the document with the contract file and effect will make a coordination program official the request exemption with the officer of the Secretary of Homeland Security and for the Homeland Security Acquisition Manual Section 3009-570 shall not award with the officer of the Secretary of the Homeland Security grant exemption with the provide with the required certification of the Congress has direct and financial interest in such system exemption for the Hsar 3009-572B1 and 2 but do not apply with the contract officer shall not award with the officer. 3009-570 for solicitation provision contract, you for the provision of the Hsar of the Title 48, 3052-209-74, limitation contractor, acting lead system integrator, solicitation, acquisition, major system with acquisition strategy, vision, use lead system integrator, clause for the Hsar of the Title 48, CFR 3052-209-75, prohibited financial interest of the lead system integrator, solicitation, include with the provisions of Hsar of the Title 40, CFR 8, CFR 3052-209-74, contract with the contractor file for the load role of the lead system integrated with the acquisition of the major system. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation 3010 Market Research Reserved. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation describing agency's needs. Alright, 3011 and 1, selecting development requirement documents, 103, marketing acceptance contract officer on the behalf of the head agency of the subpart of the contract officer made under the appropriate circumstances require offer of the required demonstrations. 3011 and 2, using and maintaining requiring documents, solicitation provision, contract clause 20470, contract officer shall ensure the clause of Hsar with the Title 40 CFR 3052 1170, index specification, intake with the table, the content with the furniture with the specification, subpart 3011 and 5, liquidated damage 501, policy head contracting authority may reduce, waive the amount of liquidated damages assessed under the contract with the Commissioner of Financial Management, serve with the designee approvals, and 3011 6 is reserved. Alright, 3012 acquisition commercial item, 3012 3 solicitation provision contract clause acquisition commercial items, 3012 301 solicitation provision contract clause acquisition commercial items, solicitation provision contract clause in service of the Hsar with the Title 48 CFR 3052 212, 7. Contract determines the conditions of act with the Department of Homeland Security acquisition commercial items, any with a solicitation contract commercial item with a provision clause of the listed therein apply with a when incorporated with a reference to each of the laws, did provisions and color with the maximum extent practical consistent with the customary commercial practice with it is necessary with the tailor of this cause. Alright, 3013 reserved. 3014 sale beating reserved. 3015 contract negotiation by negotiation. 2015-2, solicitation receipt of the proposal information. 2004, contract law with the contracting officer to ensure for the close of Title 48 CFR 3052-215. 7. Key personal officer with the solicitation contract selection word substantial basic officer possession of a special with capability regarding personnel with the facility. 270 handling proposal information. Proposal information may be released outside of the government evaluation. Small purpose for the qualified personnel with not available to thoroughly evaluate and analyze proposal information. Contract officer for the document to file in such a case unsolicited proposals of 3015-6, 602 with the Department Policy with the Department of Homeland Security and with the new innovative proposal that is sustained within the hand of the Department of Homeland Security mission. 603 Reserve. 604 agent with the point of contact the Department of Homeland Security does not have a central clearinghouse for the distribution information system regarding unsolicited proposal. Head contracting authority responsible for disseminating information required. Title 48 CFR 715-604 with the General Information Department of Homeland Security scope of the responsible functions of the Department of Homeland Security.gov DHS Public. Agent 606 Agency Procedure. The agency authority to establish procedure with the receiver, the reviewing, evaluating, timely disposal of the unsolicited proposal consistent with the requirement of Title 48 CFR 15-6 of the subpart of the delegate with each of the head contracting authority, agent for the authority to each established point of contact, coordinate with the receiver, the handling of the unsolicited proposal, delegate with the head contracting authority, contracting officer with the designated, add with the receiver, the point of unsolicited proposals, person with the Department of Homeland Security, technical personnel will receive the proposal with the cognizant contracting officer. 606-1 receipt and initial review. Agent of the contract contact point of the shall make for the initial review the determinations of the calendar is receiving the proposal. Proposal meets the requirement as far as Title 48 CFR 15-606-1 over the agent contact point of the now with the receipt of 3 calendar days after making initial review determination arrive at the officer of the general time frame of the competitive leading the evaluation. Proposal does not meet the requirements as far as Title 48 CFR 15-601A. Agent contact point shall be determined proposal with 3 calendar days after the making of the determination. Officer shall be informed of the writing of the reason for the return of the proposal. 606-2, evaluation. Comprehensive evaluation will be completed within 60 calendar days after making initial review. The determination initial time period of the agency contact point shall be divided with the officer accordingly provide with a new evaluation completion date with the evaluation officer with the reproduce the disseminate proposal with the officer with the consistent contracting officers from which of the proposal to receive the evaluating officer with the requirement of the additional information officer evaluators comply with the request for the response of the contracting officer. Office of the evaluator shall not directly contact with the proposed originator. Evaluator's recommendation accepting the proposal of the reasonable contractor officer shall ensure the compliance with the requirements of FARS Title 48 CFR 15607. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation 3016 type of contracts. 3016 looking contract types. 3016-170 contract lead system integrated with contractor. Officers shall negotiate most appropriate contract fees based on the risk of the inherit to be performed in accordance with the Title 48 CFR 1610. 3A with the contract type of the fee for the truck for the commentary for the work to be performed and the risk assumed with the worth, while existing guides for the contract type of the selection pricing fee structure for the existing of Volume 1, Chapter 4 of Contracting Reference Price Guide, Pricing Guides for the be consult with the determination appropriate the contract type of the fee structure with the varied contracts lead system integrated with the production fielding system with the complex systems. 3016-2 with a fixed price contract economic price adjustment contract clause, any clause for using method of the prepare of the proof of the contracting officer. 234-70 solicitation provision, contract officer will ensure the provisions substantial same with the Hsar with the Title 48 CFR 3052-216-70. Evaluation officer subject to the economic price adjustment clause for the solicitation containing the economic price adjustment clause. Subpart 3016-4 incentive contractor clause with the contractor officer to ensure the clause substantial same as Title 48 CFR 3052-216-71 determination award fee with the solicitation contract including an award fee. Contractor officer include with a substantial same with the Hsar over the Title 48 CFR 3052-216-72 performance evaluation plan is also solicitation contracts included in an award fee. Contractor officer include with the clause substantial same with the Hsar over the Title 48 CFR 3052-216-73 distribution award fee within solicitation contracts included in an award fee. 3016-5 within infinite delivery contracts coordinating with the component competition advocate with the designation with the component task delivery order of the ombudsman unless otherwise for the component procedure of any corrective action needed reviewing the complaint with the contract on task delivery order contracts. Component ombudsman shall provide with a written determination of such action for the contracting officer for the issue that cannot be resolved with the component with the Department of Homeland Security task delivery order ombudsman the Department of Homeland Security competition advocate review and resolution 3016-6 time material labor hours letter contracts 603-4 contracting clause contract officer and serve the clause substantial same with the Title 48 CFR 3015-216-74 settlement letter of the contract defines letter contracts. Alright, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation Special Contracting Methods. 3017-2 Option 202 Use of options. Contracting officer shall not be used unpriced option. 204 Contracts. 204 Detention Facility for Services. ICE heads for the contracting authority without delegation enter for the contract for up to 15 years duration for detention, incarceration, space, and facilities including related services. 3017-4 Leader Company Contract Limitations submitted for the course of the Hsar for the Title 40 CFR 3017-90 fixed price contract vessel repair alteration conversion 3017-900 clause U.S. Coast Guard following the clause you give it the special for the solicitation contracts clause for the Title 48 CFR 3052-217-90 through 93 and Title 48 CFR 3052-217-95 through 99 shall include with the Hsar Title 48 CFR 3052-217-94 we included in BC with a bid fixed price solicitation contract vessel repair alteration conversions that be performed within the United States in possession with the Puerto Rico of the contract office in whole and part such of the after the incident with the dollar amounts of club with the Hsar of the Title 48 3052-217-95 B 6 and C. 1 consists of the contract and inflammation and other circumstances unless of an inappropriate with the clause in Hsar's may be included in negotiated solicitation contract performed outside of the United States. The contract remain closed in heart or other incidents, increasing dollar amounts and clause of the Hsar's and inconsistent contract size and inflation circumstances clause. Title 48 CFR 3052-217-100 guarantee should be due with the general guarantee provisions that deemed desirable by contracting officer. 1. When inspection, acceptance test of full protection over the government exertion conforms with the specification absence of the defect for the divisions with no guarantee clause with the purpose of the include with the contract. 2. Customary guarantee be inserted for the first instance with the clause of the Title 48 CFR 3052-217-100 guarantee in 60 days, however, in certain circumstances Contractor officers may desire to insert a clause of the contract with a guarantee period more than 60 days in such instances. Whether a full inquiry would determine that such a long guarantee period would not involve with increased cost with a long guarantee period would may be substituted with a contracting officer for the usual 60 days. With a full inquiry to discover that such long guarantee period will involve the reasonable expected involve the increased costs in such facts of the reason for the needing of such longer period shall be set forth in the form of the COCO. Request approval of the use of the guarantee period exceeding 60 days. Upon approval of the longer period may be inserted with the contracting officer first under the clause of the Title 48 CFR 3052 217 100 guarantees. Alright, emergency acquisitions, Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation, Emergency Acquisition 3018-1, Available Acquisition Flexibility, 3018-109, Priorities Allocation. Department of Homeland Security components may be assigned priority ratings on contract orders authorized by the Department by the Defensive Priorities Allocation System, or DPAS. Small Business Programs. 3019-2 Policy General. The Department of Homeland Security to unify the team was approved that involved the senior management of small business specialists, acquisition personnel for the program staff to support both critical and Homeland Security mission with the need of the public policy with the object with the concern of the small business participation with the development procurement with the Director Office of Small Business Disadvantaged Business Utilization responsible for the implementation execution program to assist the small business of the veteran-owned small business of the service the disabled veteran-owned small business of the hub zone small businesses, small disadvantaged business woman-owned small business concerns as required with the Small Business Act of the Small Business Subcontracting Program. 705 responsible for the Contracting Officer Subcontracting Program. 705-1 general supportive of the program and solicitation subcontracting plans will be required for the one or more office for the contract officer to be made, including evaluation factor for the concern of the quality of the proposed subcontracting plan with the past performance of the previous subcontract. Contracting officers may ensure that these factors do not penalize the company not required to submit the subcontracting plans. 708 contracting clause. 708-70 subcontract solicitation provision contract clause. Contracting officers under the clause of the Hsar Title 48 CFR 3052-219-71 Permanent Homeland Security Mentor Protege Program and solicitation anticipated need with a subcontracting plan. Contracting officers ensure the provision of Hsar Title 48 CFR 3052-219-72 and evaluation primary contractor participation in the Department of Homeland Security Mentor Program Protege Program and all solicitations contained in the Hsar of the Title 48 CFR 3052-219-71 or the Homeland Security Mentor Program Protege Program FAR's Title 48 CFR 15219 Small Business Contracting Subcontracting Plan. And then we'll go to 320 and we'll cut the tape there. 320 and 21 are reserved.